The prisoner deep under the mountains. Hidden from the world, there was a secret base. The soldiers working there had all seen many strange things, but nothing compared to what lived in the darkest corner. Behind steel doors and thick walls was a cage, taller than any man, larger than any prison cell. And inside that cage was not a human, not an animal, but an alien giantess. Her skin shimmered with a pale blue glow. Her eyes burned with a strange white light, and her hair flowed down her back like dark smoke. Heavy chains bound her wrists and ankles, thick enough to hold a tank. She crouched low in the cage, silent, watching everyone who passed. Some soldiers called her a demon, others called her a god, but all agreed on one thing: she was dangerous. They whispered a rule, a warning that echoed through the base: never feed her, never get close, because the one who feeds her will never walk away. Stories spread of guards who tried, men who dared to step too close, only to vanish the next morning. Some said she killed them, others believed she mocked them, but no one really knew. One night, a new guard named Elias was assigned to watch her cell. He was young, restless, and more curious than careful. The older soldiers smirked and told him the legend. They said, "If you are foolish enough to feed her, she will tear you apart." But Elias did not laugh. He felt something different when he looked into her glowing eyes. The base was quiet. Only the hum of generators filled the halls. Elias carried a tray of food meant for the soldiers, but his steps slowed when he reached her cage. Inside, she sat like a statue, her glowing eyes fixed only on him, not blinking, not moving. He swallowed hard, his heart pounding in his chest. Her gaze was not wild, not angry, but something else, something waiting. He turned to leave, but his hand trembled. Something inside him whispered, "She is starving." The stories rang in his ears, the warnings of death, but his curiosity was stronger. With slow steps, he approached the bars, the tray shaking in his hands. The soldiers who passed by shook their heads, whispering that he was mad. But Elias could not stop himself. He bent down, sliding a piece of bread through the bars. The giantess moved for the first time, her long fingers brushing against his hand as she took it. Her touch was cold, yet it burned like fire in his skin. She lifted the bread to her lips and ate slowly, her glowing eyes never leaving his face. The room felt colder, the air heavy, but she did not attack. She did not scream. Instead, she crouched lower, closer to him, as if studying the one brave enough to feed her. Elias whispered, "Why are you here?" Though he knew she could not answer. But the moment the words left his mouth, something strange happened. Her lips did not move, but a voice echoed in his head, soft and sharp at the same time. "You fed me," the voice said. "Now you belong to me." Elias dropped the tray in shock. His breath catching in his throat, he stumbled back. But the giantess only leaned forward, pressing her glowing eyes against the bars. Her chains rattled softly, her cold smile spreading across her face. The sound of her voice still echoed inside his skull, repeating, claiming him. "You fed me. Now you are mine." The other guards laughed from a distance, thinking he was simply afraid of her size. They did not hear the voice. They did not feel the mark burning in his chest. Elias stood frozen, sweat dripping down his neck. Something had changed in that moment, something he could not explain. The cage was no longer just a cage, and she was no longer just a prisoner. She had chosen him that night. Elias could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face, glowing in the darkness. Every time he tried to silence his thoughts, her voice whispered again, "You fed me. Now I will never let you go." And deep inside, Elias knew the stories were not warnings of death. They were warnings of something worse. He had broken the rule, and now the prisoner was not behind the bars anymore. She was inside his mind. The first connection the next morning, Elias walked through the steel corridors of the base with heavy steps. His fellow soldiers laughed as they passed, nudging each other, saying, "He fed the demon." They expected him to be pale and broken, but Elias said nothing. Inside, his chest still burned from her touch, and her voice still whispered in his head. When he returned to the cage, the giantess was waiting. She was crouched low, her glowing eyes fixed on the door before he even entered. Her chains rattled softly as she leaned closer. Elias froze, because he knew she had been waiting just for him. He tried to ignore her, walking past with his rifle slung over his shoulder. But the voice came again, clear and sharp. "You returned," she said. Though her lips never moved, Elias stopped, his pulse racing. He whispered under his breath, "You can speak." Her eyes flared brighter, and the voice echoed louder. "I can speak to you. Only you." Elias gripped the bars, his knuckles white. "What are you?" he asked. The giantess tilted her head, her dark hair falling over her glowing face. "I am hunger. I am prisoner. I am queen." The voice answered. Her words sank into his mind like fire, but beneath them, he felt something else. Loneliness. She was not simply threatening him, she was reaching for him. Later that night, Elias dreamed again. He stood beneath alien skies, 2 moons hanging over black oceans. Towering figures walked among broken cities, their glowing eyes like hers, and in the center stood the giantess. Her chains gone, her form taller, radiant, powerful. She stretched out her hand toward him, and though he knew it was a dream, he reached back. The moment their hands touched, the ground shook and the stars shattered. He woke gasping, his sheets drenched in sweat. But even awake, he still felt her touch on his skin. The next day, he avoided the cage. He tried to bury himself in patrols and chores. But no matter where he went, her voice followed. "You gave me food," she whispered. "Now you must give me more." Her words echoed in his skull. Sometimes soft, sometimes sharp. He covered his ears, but it did not help. The voice was inside him, not outside, at night. Curiosity defeated fear once more. He carried another tray, bread and water, his hands trembling. The soldiers watching laughed and shouted, "Go on, feed your bride." Elias ignored them, his eyes fixed on hers. The giantess leaned forward, her glowing hands brushing against his again. When she took the bread, her chains rattled, but she did not pull. Instead, she lowered her head slightly, a gesture that felt like gratitude. Her voice whispered, softer this time, "You are not like the others. They look at me with fear, but you look with hunger." Elias's throat tightened. "I'm not afraid of you," he lied. Her glowing eyes narrowed, and he felt her laughter echo inside his chest. "You are afraid, but you came back," she said. "That is why you belong to me." From that night onward, Elias could not escape her dreams. Every time he closed his eyes, she was there. She showed him visions of stars, of battles fought on worlds far away. She showed him her people, tall and radiant, chained and slaughtered by human hands. And she showed him herself, not as a prisoner, but as a queen leading armies. When Elias asked why she showed him these things, her answer was always the same. "Because you fed me, and now you must know me." Days passed, and Elias grew weaker. The other soldiers mocked him, saying the giantess had cursed him. But they did not see the truth. He was not cursed. He was connected. The marks on his skin glowed faintly at night, thin lines like burning veins. He covered them with his uniform, but he could not hide the way his eyes lingered on her cage. Every day, her presence pulled him closer, and every day, the bond between them grew stronger. One evening, as Elias stood alone by her cage, she leaned forward. Her voice filled his head, calm and cold. "You gave me food. You gave me your fear. Now you must give me your promise." Elias swallowed hard, his voice shaking. "What promise?" Her glowing eyes pierced through him like knives. "That you will never leave me," she said. "And if I refuse," Elias whispered, The chains rattled. The air grew cold, and her voice cut through him like thunder. "Then I will never let you go." Elias stepped back, his heart pounding. He realized the stories were true, but not in the way the soldiers believed. She did not kill the ones who fed her. She claimed them, bound them, and pulled them into her world. And now Elias was her prisoner, as much as she was his. The warning. The base grew uneasy. Strange things began to happen after Elias fed the giantess. Lights flickered in the corridors. Doors rattled in the night, and soldiers reported hearing whispers when no one was there. The air in the underground halls grew colder, heavy like a storm pressing down on them. Some said the base was haunted. Others blamed the machines. But Elias knew the truth. It was her. The giantess never moved when others passed her cage. She stayed still, silent, eyes half closed, as if asleep. But when Elias entered, she stirred. Her glowing eyes locked on him instantly. Her chains rattled softly, like they were eager to break. She whispered in his mind, her voice low but clear, "They do not see me. Not as you do." Elias tried to ignore her, but the whispers never stopped. At night, when the soldiers slept, her voice filled his dreams. She showed him visions again. Burning cities, skies torn apart, giant figures marching across ruined lands. But this time, the visions were not of her world. They were of Earth. He saw the base crumbling, the mountains split, the sky glowing green with fire. He woke screaming, sweat pouring down his face. Her voice lingered in his skull. "If they kill me, your world dies with me." The next day, Elias tried to keep his distance, but the other soldiers had already noticed his change. They muttered that his eyes looked wrong, too bright, too sharp. They whispered that he was cursed, that the demon had touched him. One night, 2 men cornered him in the mess hall, shoving him against the wall. "You've been feeding it," one snarled. "You're bringing death to all of us." Elias tried to deny it, but the giantess's voice cut through his mind even then. "Do not fear them. They are nothing." Her cold calmness made his stomach twist. The men stepped back when they saw the faint glow under his sleeve. They left him alone after that, but their fear spread through the base like fire. That evening, Elias returned to the cage. The giantess sat waiting, her glowing eyes piercing through the dark. "You saw it," she whispered. "You saw what will come." Elias gripped the bars, his voice shaking. "What are you showing me? Why are you here?" Her chains clinked softly as she leaned forward, her voice pressing deeper into his mind. "I am warning you," she said. "If I die, they will come. If I live, I can hold them back." Elias's throat tightened. "Who will come?" Her glowing eyes narrowed, and for the first time, he felt fear inside her. Not anger, not hunger, but real fear. "They are greater than me, older than me, and they are listening already," she whispered. Her voice trembled, echoing like thunder across his thoughts. "My chains are not to protect them from me. My chains are to keep them from finding you." Elias staggered back, his stomach twisting. The stories the soldiers told were lies, or half-truths at best. She was not the monster they feared, but a shield holding back something worse. He looked at her with wide eyes, whispering, "Why me? Why are you speaking only to me?" Her voice softened, almost like sorrow. "Because you fed me. You gave me kindness, and now we are bound." That night, the warnings grew stronger. The base shook with tremors, dust falling from the ceilings. The radios picked up static that pulsed like a heartbeat. The soldiers grew restless, shouting that the demon was cursing them. Some demanded her execution, saying it was the only way to silence the unrest. Elias stood in silence, his fists clenched. He knew killing her would not save them. It would doom them. Later, Elias sat outside her cage, staring into her glowing eyes. The air was heavy, the silence sharp. Finally he whispered, "Tell me the truth. Why are you here?" The giantess tilted her head, her chains rattling softly. Her voice filled him once more. low and cold. I was taken because your kind feared me. They chained me because they did not understand. Her eyes burned brighter, the walls shaking slightly with her presence. But I am not the threat, Elias. I am the warning. Elias felt his chest tighten. She leaned closer, her glowing face pressed against the bars. Her words struck through him like knives. If they end me, Elias, the sky will open, and nothing will survive. He stumbled back, but the voice followed. Remember this. You fed me, and for that, I have given you sight. Now you must decide whether to believe me, or to watch your world burn. That night, Elias lay awake on his bunk, the whispers of soldiers echoing through the halls. Some called for her death, others begged to leave the base. But deep in his mind, her voice stayed clear, steady, unshakable. The chains are not forever, Elias, and when they break, everything changes. He closed his eyes, trying to push the words away, but he could not, because he knew, deep inside, she was not lying. Her warning was real, and the world outside had no idea what was coming. The change Elias was no longer the same man who first walked into the cage room. The soldiers noticed it before he did, whispering behind his back, avoiding his eyes. His skin looked pale, but under the pale surface, faint glowing lines spread across his arms. At night, when the lamps flickered, those lines lit up like fire running through his veins. He covered them with his uniform, but the glow always found a way to shine through. Sleep gave him no rest. Every time he closed his eyes, the giantess appeared, not in her chains, not behind the bars, but standing tall and free in his mind. She towered above ruined cities, her glowing eyes watching him with hunger and sorrow. When she raised her hand, he felt his body respond. When she spoke, her words burned into his bones. You are becoming mine, she whispered. Piece by piece, during the day, Elias felt strange. His hearing sharpened. He could hear the hum of the lights, the drip of water far down the hall, even the heartbeat of the soldier standing next to him. His strength grew too. Heavier boxes felt light. His grip left dents in steel. The others saw it, and fear spread quickly. They whispered that he was cursed, marked, infected by the demon. But Elias knew it was not a curse. It was a change. One night while cleaning his weapon, Elias noticed something on his wrist. The glowing marks had shifted into shapes, spirals like the carvings of the giantess's people. They pulsed faintly in rhythm, with his own heartbeat. He pressed a hand against them, and the giantess's voice filled his skull. You are learning, she said. Our language, our bond, our blood. Elias dropped the gun, his chest tight. What are you doing to me? He whispered. The chains in the cage rattled as if in answer. I am not doing it. Her voice echoed. We are becoming. The next morning, Elias tried to distance himself. He avoided her cage. He ignored her whispers. But the connection would not break. Even when he patrolled far down the base, her voice reached him, soft and steady. Do not fight it, Elias. It is useless. And every time he tried to resist, his body burned until he gave in. The soldiers grew restless. One officer confronted him, slamming him against the wall. What have you done? The officer demanded. The demon is inside you. Elias tried to answer, but his voice carried an echo that was not his own. The officer stepped back in fear, staring at Elias, as if he was already something else. That night, the whispers in the mess hall grew louder. Some wanted Elias locked away. Others wanted the giantess executed. But Elias knew neither could be done. Their fates were already tied. When he returned to her cage again, the giantess leaned close. Her glowing eyes studied him with something almost human. You feel it now, she whispered. The hunger, the strength, the knowing. Elias gritted his teeth, his fists clenched. Why me? He demanded. Why not anyone else? Her voice came with a weight that pressed into his soul. Because you chose kindness. When others chose fear, Because you fed me. You freed me?" Her words sent a chill through him. He had not freed her chains, but he had freed her spirit. And now she was inside him. That night, the dreams changed. He no longer only saw her. He saw himself, but not as a soldier, not as a man. He saw himself taller, glowing, with marks across his skin that matched hers. He saw himself standing beside her as the sky split open. Together, they looked down on a broken earth, and the strange truth filled him. He was no longer only human. He was becoming part of her. When he woke, his body shook with power he could not control. The glowing spiral spread across his chest and neck. He touched his face in the mirror, and for a moment, his reflection did not move. It smiled when he did not. It blinked too slowly. It looked more like her than him. He stumbled back, gasping. The giantess's voice echoed in his skull, calm and certain. "You see it now. Elias, you are mine, and I am yours." From that day, Elias stopped pretending. He no longer tried to deny her voice, no longer tried to hide the glow. The soldiers avoided him entirely, whispering that he was marked for death. But Elias knew something deeper, something only she had told him. His change was not sickness. It was preparation. She was shaping him into something more. And though part of him feared it, another part wanted it. Because every time she whispered his name, every time her glowing eyes filled his dreams, he felt less like a prisoner and more like a chosen one. But deep inside, one question still haunted him. If she was changing him into something like her, what would be left of the man named Elias when it was finished? The escape. The first alarm came in the middle of the night. A deep red light filled the underground halls, and sirens screamed like wounded animals. Soldiers ran through the corridors, their boots pounding against the steel floor. Something was happening outside the base, something no one could explain. Elias woke in his bunk to the sound of shouting. He rushed to his post, but even before he reached the cage room, he knew where the danger was leading. The giantess was standing tall, her glowing eyes brighter than ever, her chains rattling as if alive. The air was heavy, vibrating with a strange power that made the walls hum. She turned her gaze on Elias the moment he entered. "You feel it too," she whispered inside his mind. "They are here!" The ground shook, dust falling from the ceiling. The soldiers yelled that explosions were rocking the mountain. But Elias knew it was not bombs. It was something else, something calling back to her. The giantess leaned forward, her voice cutting through his skull like a blade. "They are answering my signal. They are coming to break me free." Elias pressed against the bars, his voice sharp. "Who is coming, your people?" The giantess's eyes glowed hotter, and her chains began to glow with the same light. "They are not my people," she said coldly. "They are my hunters. They will tear this place apart to reach me." Elias's stomach twisted. "Then why do you look calm?" Her lips curled into something between a smile and a snarl. "Because they will not take me while you are here. You are my anchor, and I will not let them have you." Suddenly, the cage door groaned, the steel bars bending without being touched. The soldiers surrounding her opened fire, bullets sparking off her chains, but never piercing her skin. The giantess roared, not with her mouth, but with her mind. The sound knocked men to the ground, blood dripping from their ears. Elias stumbled, but did not fall, the glowing marks on his arms blazing brighter than ever. She looked at him, her voice shaking the walls. "Do you see, Elias? You are bound to me. You stand when they fall." Another explosion rocked the base. The lights shattered, plunging the halls into green glow from her body. The soldiers screamed to retreat, to seal the chamber, but it was too late. The bars of the cage snapped like twigs, the sound louder than thunder. The giantess stepped forward, her chains dragging, sparks flying as the steel scraped against the floor. For the first time, she was no longer behind the cage. She was free. Elias's chest pounded with terror and awe. He should have run, but his legs did not move. Instead, He watched as she stood taller, her full height towering over everyone. The soldiers opened fire again, but she swept her chained arms like blades, knocking them aside as if they were toys. Her voice filled Elias's skull, fierce and commanding. "Stay with me, do not fear. You are mine." The ceiling cracked, and the mountain groaned. Outside, something enormous moved in the storm. A shadow bigger than the base itself. The giantess tilted her head toward the sound, her glowing eyes narrowing. "They are here," she whispered. "And now you will see why I warned you." The soldiers fled, their discipline broken, their courage gone. Elias remained, shaking but rooted. The giantess crouched low, her glowing face inches from his. Her chains rattled as she leaned closer, her voice soft but unshakable. "You have two choices. Elias, stay with them and die, or follow me and live." The floor cracked open, smoke and fire rising from the lower levels. The base was collapsing, the mountain splitting from within. Elias gasped, choking on dust, his mind racing. But no matter how loud the alarm screamed, no matter how heavy the walls fell, one truth filled him. She had never lied. She had warned him. And everything she promised was happening now. The giantess stretched out her glowing hand, chains dangling from her wrist. Her voice thundered inside him. "You fed me. You bound yourself to me. And now I will carry you out of this prison." Elias stared at her hand, at the pale blue glow, burning against the falling darkness. Behind her, the shadow outside the mountain moved closer. A shape so massive it swallowed the sky. Elias reached out, his trembling fingers brushing against her skin. The moment he touched her, his glowing marks flared like fire. His body felt light, almost weightless, as if the ground beneath him no longer held power. The giantess smiled, a terrible and beautiful smile. "Now, Elias," she whispered. "We escape." The roof of the base collapsed with a deafening roar. The giantess rose, chains dragging like broken crowns, carrying Elias in her grip. Above them, the storm opened, green lightning splitting the sky, and in that light, Elias saw it, the hunters she had warned about, shapes descending from the clouds, enormous and terrible. But all he felt was her hand holding him, unshakable, unbreakable. The cage was gone, and so was his old life. The truth. The mountain burned behind them. Flames rose into the night sky, and the underground base crumbled into ash. Soldiers scattered like ants, their rifles useless against the storm above. But Elias did not run with them. He was in the grip of the alien giantess, lifted high in her hand as she stepped over broken stone. Her glowing eyes burned through the smoke, sharp and unshaken. Above them, the sky shifted. Shadows descended from the clouds, enormous shapes with wings of metal and light. The hunters she had warned about. They moved like predators, circling, their voices echoing through the storm in strange alien tones. Elias trembled, his voice weak. "What are they?" The giantess tilted her head, her dark hair whipping in the wind. "They are the end of worlds," she whispered in his mind. "And I was sent here to keep them from yours." Elias's heart twisted. The soldiers had always said she was the monster, the curse, the prisoner. But the truth was nothing like the stories. She was not chained because she was dangerous to humans. She was chained because humans did not understand her, because those who captured her feared what she carried. As they moved through the forest, the ground shook with every step she took. Elias clung to her finger, staring into her glowing face. "Tell me why," he demanded. "Tell me why you chose me." Her eyes narrowed, and for the first time, her voice softened. "When you fed me, you did more than give me food," she whispered. "You gave me bond. You gave me anchor. You gave me reason to hold back what waits above." Elias shook his head, his thoughts racing. "You said they are your hunters, but you are not afraid." Her chains rattled as she moved, her lips curling into a faint smile. "I am not afraid because I am no longer alone," she said. "My strength is not enough. My chains were meant to contain, not protect. But now we are bound, and through you, I have power they cannot touch." The words filled Elias with both fear and awe. He looked at his glowing arms, the spirals crawling up his skin like fire. He felt the energy inside him, burning, shifting, waiting to be unleashed. "You are changing me," he whispered. The giantess lowered her head until her glowing eyes were level with his. "I am not changing you, Elias," she said. "I am showing you what you already are." The forest shook again as one of the hunters descended. Its body slammed into the ground with a roar, glowing eyes like fire. It towered above the trees, taller than any machine humans had built. Elias gasped. "How do we fight that?" The giantess tightened her grip around him, raising her head high. "We fight as one." Her voice thundered. "Because that is why you fed me. That is why you are still alive." Lightning split the sky, and for a moment, Elias saw her differently. Not as a prisoner, not even as a queen, but as a guardian, ancient and unyielding, carrying a power too great for human chains. Her glowing eyes blazed brighter, and the marks on Elias's skin flared in answer. He felt her energy surging through him, filling his veins. It was painful, overwhelming, but it also felt right. He was no longer only himself. He was part of her. She stepped forward, chains dragging through the mud. The hunter roared, swinging its massive limbs, crushing trees in its path. The giantess raised her chained arms, blocking the blow, the sound echoing like thunder. Elias screamed as the glow in his veins surged brighter. He felt the impact too, but instead of breaking, the pain hardened into strength. Together, they pushed back, and the hunter stumbled, its fire dimming for the first time. Elias gasped, realization striking him. Her chains were not shackles anymore. They were weapons, and his bond with her was not curse, but shield. She had not lied. Her truth was simple. Alone she was strong, but with him, she was unstoppable. When the hunter retreated into the storm, the giantess lowered Elias close to her face. Her voice was sharp but steady. "Now you know, Elias. Now you see the truth." He stared back, his body trembling, his veins still glowing. "You were never prisoner," she whispered. "You were chosen." For a long moment, silence fell between them. The fire of the mountain burned behind. The storm raged above, but Elias only saw her eyes. And in them he did not see chains or hunger. He saw something dangerous, yes, but also something protective, almost tender. He whispered, "If I am chosen, what happens now?" Her lips curled into the faintest smile, her voice pressing deep into his mind. "Now, Elias, you follow me." The final choice. The storm raged above the jungle. Green lightning split the sky. Shadows moved between the clouds, and the ground shook with every roar from the hunters. Elias clung to the giantess's hand as she carried him across the burning forest. Her glowing eyes stayed sharp, her movements steady, as if the chaos around them did not matter. Behind them, the base was gone, swallowed by fire and stone. Ahead, the sky cracked open, revealing massive silhouettes descending from the storm. The hunters, endless in number, ancient in power. Elias's heart pounded in his chest, his voice trembling. "We cannot fight them all." The giantess lowered her head, her chains rattling softly. "We do not fight them all, Elias. We choose." She stopped in a clearing where the earth glowed faintly green. The light rose from cracks in the ground, pulsing in rhythm with the marks on Elias's skin. He stumbled as she set him down, his knees weak. "What is this place?" he asked. Her voice filled his skull, calm and heavy. "This is the doorway, the path between worlds. It was hidden here long before your people knew how to build walls." The ground trembled again, the hunters drawing closer. Their voices echoed like thunder. strange words that rattled Elias's bones. He covered his ears, but it did not matter. The sound was inside him. The giantess crouched low, her glowing eyes fixed on him. "They are calling for me," she whispered, "but they will not have me. Because you have a choice to make." Elias looked up at her, his chest burning with fear and fire. "What choice?" he asked. Her chains rattled as she leaned closer. "You can stay here, remain human, live whatever life your kind will allow you after this night," her voice whispered. "Or," her glowing hand hovered above him, light spilling over his skin, "you can follow me, become more than human, walk into the stars as my bound one." Elias's throat tightened. He thought of the soldiers, the warnings, the stories that said she would kill any man who fed her. But he knew the truth now. She did not kill them. She claimed them, and now she had claimed him. The hunter's roars grew louder, trees splitting in the distance. Elias's body shook, his glowing marks flaring bright. He gasped, clutching his chest. "Why me? Why not anyone else?" The giantess's voice cut through the storm, steady and unshakable. "Because you fed me when others feared me. Because you looked into my eyes and saw more than chains. Because you are mine." For a moment, Elias felt the weight of two worlds on his shoulders. If he stayed, he would remain human, fragile, hunted by both soldiers and the truth he carried. If he followed her, he would lose himself, becoming something he could not understand. He looked into her glowing eyes, searching for lies, for weakness, but found none. Only fire, hunger, and something else, something almost like devotion. The hunters broke through the trees, towering forms glowing with fire. The earth split, the jungle burned. The doorway pulsed brighter beneath Elias's feet. The giantess extended her chained hand, her voice shaking his soul. "Choose now, Elias, for the storm will not wait." Elias trembled, sweat dripping down his face. His human heart screamed at him to run, to stay, to survive. But the fire in his veins burned hotter, louder, pulling him forward. He lifted his hand slowly, placing it into hers. The moment their skin touched, the world exploded with light. The marks on his body blazed like fire, spreading across his chest, his neck, his face. His bones ached, his blood roared, but he did not fall. Her voice filled him. No longer whisper, no longer command. It was unity. It was bond. It was forever. "You are mine," she said, "and I am yours." The hunters stopped in their tracks, their roars silenced. The light from Elias and the giantess burned so bright it cut through the storm. For the first time, the predators hesitated. The giantess rose tall, her chains glowing like molten steel. She held Elias in her hand, and together they glared into the sky. Not prey, not prisoner, but chosen. The storm twisted. The doorway pulsed. The hunters pulled back, their shadows fading into the clouds. Elias gasped for air, his body trembling but alive. He looked at her face, still glowing, still fierce, and whispered, "What happens now?" Her lips curled into a terrible, beautiful smile. "Now," she said, "you follow me into the stars." The light swallowed them both. The jungle, the storm, the hunters, all vanished in the blaze. And in that final moment, Elias understood the truth. The warning had never been about her killing him. It had always been about her never letting him go.